All right, and with success comes more interest in the program from some of the top athletes across the country, and that's what we see reflected in the current recruiting rankings as we head toward National Signing Day, with Washington at number 17 according to 24/7. We're joined by Jack Follman from Pacific Takes talking Huskies football, Jack. And so 15 commits at this point. And the four-star column is pretty well decorated there with 10 out of the 16. So the Huskies bringing in a pretty good class to date.
Definitely. This is one of the best classes so far that I can remember Washington having in kind of the internet recruiting era. And it's pretty deep and it's pretty top heavy at the same time, which is really, really impressive. They, as you said, they have a lot of four-star guys, and that's about 2/3 of the class. And they have some pretty solid, guys below that too. They're kind of past the days of taking a lot of projects or taking a lot of, plan B, plan C guys. This is a class that not only on top of that, they're guys who, a lot of them have been committed to the program for a long time. So they're guys that they've kind of been able to evaluate and kind of have as part of the team a little bit for a while. So I think people around Washington are really excited about this class.
I see a number of players as I go down the guys that are basically firm commits at this point, and I see that obviously the state of Washington's been locked in. I understand the high school football play in the state of Washington's fairly solid and better than it's been in the past, but obviously the population not what it's been. As you go down the coast of California, obviously everybody going there for talent in the West. Looking at what's in play right now, some of those guys that jump out at you that seem to be firmly entrenched.
Yeah, unfortunately, it looks like maybe one of the top guys on that Husky board who's committed, Marlon Tuipulotu, who's from the Portland area. It sounds like that might be their biggest recruiting challenge, or maybe the getting him back in the fold. It sounds like he might be taking a trip to USC this weekend, and that would really hurt the Huskies, because I'd say overall right now he's the top overall player they have committed. So if they lose him, that'll really sting, especially because out in the West Coast, those big around 300-pound athletes that are also elite athletes are not as plentiful as they are out in the East Coast or the South. So that's going to be a big one out there. Also, there's a couple other prospects they haven't gotten a commitment from that they're after. Not a ton, because they are taking a small class. But there's a safety out of the Phoenix area, Isaiah Palomau. He's a big athletic safety. I think he's around 6'3", 195. They're going to have a hard time getting him away from USC or Arizona State. Then kind of a long shot offensive lineman, a 5-star guy, Austin Jackson. He's also out of the Phoenix area. I believe his dad played for USC though, so he's going to be very hard to get away from USC. So as the Huskies kind of move up and back to the top of the Pac-12, they're going to find that winning recruiting battles with USC is not that easy when USC really wants a player. One kind of wild card guy to keep an eye on is he's a guard out of St. John Bosco, which is a big powerhouse down in the LA area, Wyatt Davis. He's committed to Ohio State, has been for a while, but there's been rumblings that he might take a trip up to Seattle at some point in the next couple weeks. I'm completely throwing that out there. I have no proof of that. So that's one of those ones you always keep an eye on, like a D'Anthony Thomas when he went to Oregon. Anything could happen in recruiting season, and he's a guy who had huge interest in Washington a long time ago and kind of has throughout the process. So you never know when people get late in the game and they want to take a look somewhere. So that's another one to kind of keep a small eye out for.
Well, Jack, you're our insider. So if you say that he's hopping on a plane, we're going to take your word for it and go with it. And even if he's not, he's probably heard this and now he's booking the flight.
Okay.
You mentioned Jackson. I pulled some information on him just because we did a player profile on him. He's the 81st rated player in the country, according to Rivals, in their top 100 out of Phoenix. Best player in the state. You don't think of generally big, lumbering offensive linemen, or in this case, very athletic, swift on their feet for their size offensive linemen coming out of Arizona. But that's the case here at 6'6", 270, visiting a number of schools. But 24/7 has likes USC is an 87% chance of getting Mr. Austin Jackson with Washington in the mix. So as we head toward the final 2 weeks, anybody else that we can look out for that would vault this recruiting class or maybe stabilize it that could make a difference?
One interesting player to keep an eye on is Connor Weddington. He's an in-state guy from Washington. Strangely, he was one of the first guys to commit to the Huskies. I think in this class, he's a good 4-star guy, kind of a safety or running back athlete at Sumner, Washington. But about a month ago, it was something. Things blew up with him and he decommitted, and rumors were flying that Washington walked away from him because he kind of secretly arranged visits with Stanford when he wasn't supposed to, or said he wasn't going to. Other people were saying that he just wanted to look around. And some people have said now that Washington's not recruiting him at all, which would seem kind of crazy since he's a pretty big recruit. But Chris Petersen seems to be a coach that has his way, and if he's not going to bend over backwards for, anybody. So I wouldn't be shocked if they walked away from him, but he's someone to keep an eye on, because if Washington still has, an open door with him and he decides to stay home in these next couple weeks, as opposed to go to a Stanford or a UCLA, he could kind of bolster that class again. He's, a pretty good recruit. So we'll see. It's a very confusing recruitment. So we'll see what happens.